This is one of two videos which will show you how to convert your Harbor Freight tool cart so you can open and close the drawers while the lid on the cabinet is shut. But within a few seconds you can convert it back to the original configuration. In the back of the top compartment on the tool cart there are two tabs sticking up that are spring-loaded, and when the lid closes, those press down, which latches the drawers shut. If the tabs in your cart are like the one showing on the left, then this is the video that you will watch. If the tab on your cart is like the one shown on the right, then there will be a link below that you can go to that will show you the modification for that cart. You will need a piece of 9/32 outside diameter brass tubing that you can get at a like a hobby shop that sells models, RC airplanes and things like that. This is really the better way to go because it's what you need is something that's a 1/4 inch inside diameter, and with this you get the 9/32 outside diameter, and where it only has an 0.14 wall on it, the inside diameter is pretty close to a 1/4 inch. If you cannot get this brass tubing, you can just go to a home store. This is a faucet connector. It's just the poly pipe that you connect the kitchen faucet or a bathroom faucet with. The process is going to be the same, other than we're going to have to make a little bit bigger hole here and with this poly pipe where it has a thicker wall. You'll see that there's screws right here, and there's going to be nuts underneath that you're going to have to get to take this off. So you're going to have to take the top two drawers out. I'm just going to do the one side in this video, so I'm just going to take this drawer out, and that's going to give you access to the nuts that are underneath here. And to take the drawers out, right here on the side of the drawer guides, when you pull it out, there's a tab. On one side you're going to push the tab down, and the other side you're going to lift the tab up and then just pull the drawer out. You can put that out of the way. Then you're going to need a 10mm wrench and a Phillips screwdriver. Now if you look back, this is with that top right drawer out. If you look back in there, you can see the mechanism that goes up and down when that latch is pushed down when the lid is closed. And if you look, you can see the two machine screws as they come down through there, and they're going to have a nut on the bottom, and we're going to have to remove those nuts. So what you're going to do, take your 10mm wrench and pull this second drawer down out a little bit, and you can get your arm in there, and then you can get back up in there and kind of feel where that machine screw is sticking down and the nut coming out, and loosen it up. And after you get it so loose, you can just take that nut off with your hand or fingers. So now what we're going to want to do is mark this rod sticking up so that we can cut that off right even with the back on the cabinet. You don't want it sticking up farther than that, but you want it so it's at least 1/8 of an inch above the top of this little housing here, but you don't want it sticking above the hinge line at all. I'm just going to take a Sharpie pen and mark that, and that's where I'm going to make the cut. So now, with the nuts off of the bottom, open all the drawers up just slightly, and that will allow you to lift this whole mechanism right out of there. Now what we're going to have to do is get this little plastic cap off, and the best way to do it is to just pop it off like that, kind of point it in a direction so when it flies off you don't lose it. The next thing we're going to want to do is to ream this hole out so that this brass tubing will go down in it and slide in and out really easily. If we're going to be using the supply line tubing, the poly tubing, it's going to be easiest to first drill it out with the 3/8 drill bit and then file it out so that this will slide in and out. But on this one we're going to do the brass tubing. So I have just taken a round file and I've gone and filed that and checked it, and my tubing's going in and out of there really nicely, so that's what you want. So now what we got to do is cut the brass tubing. We're going to want to cut this tubing the same length as would be from these little ears here that's holding the spring in place on the top of the ears up to the bottom of the plastic cap. So that's how long the brass tubing is going to be. So you can just lay that along like there. Mark that, and then you can cut that off with a hacksaw. And then we also are going to cut this steel dowel off at that part where we marked. We'll cut that off with a hacksaw also. Okay, I saved you the misery of having to watch me cut this brass tubing, but I've got it cut, and you can see how the length of it is right from these little tabs to the bottom of that little plastic cap there. And once again, I'm going to save you the misery of watching me cut that, so I'm going to go cut this off with a hacksaw right there, and I'll be back in a second. Okay, now I've cut this off, and I've taken this end here and I've taken a file and kind of rounded it off and smoothed it up, because you don't want any sharp edges on this, because this is still going to be sticking up through this housing about that far, and so you don't want anything to get caught on it. The other little end with the plastic tube on, or the plastic end on it, I've taken some sandpaper and I've kind of just roughed it up a little bit. And the reason for that is we're going to take this piece and we're going to glue it inside of here with some Gorilla Glue. The reason I like to use Gorilla Glue is because it expands, and it's going to, because it's just a little bit of a loose fit, and it's going to expand and hold that in place. Also, do any deburring on your brass tubing too, because you don't want any burrs there to scratch things, or your hands or things like that. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to get the Gorilla Glue out and glue that. Now, if you've never worked with Gorilla Glue before, the thing you need to know is Gorilla Glue is activated by moisture. And so you're going to need a little bit of water. And what you're going to do is, I'm just going to pour a little bit of water into this cap right here. And I'm just going to dip that end so it's got some moisture in there. And then I'm going to take the Gorilla Glue and put it on here. And the reason I'm going to put it on this side, because if you put it in the housing, as you push this down, the glue is going to ooze out this way. And you really don't want the glue to come out this way. So we're going to put the glue on the outside of this. And it doesn't take a whole lot. And you don't want to get this on your fingers because it is really, really sticky. And we're going to take the end that we had dipped in the water, and I'm just going to put that in there and start rotating that around. And then before I get it all the way down, I'm going to get a paper towel, and I'm going to wipe any of the squeeze out off. And then I'm just going to set that aside on the towel so that as it starts to expand out, I don't want it to get on anything and glue it to anything, so the towel can always come off of it. Now what we're going to do, make sure the drawers are out slightly again. We're going to put this back in place, and you'll see there's little channels that these wings go down in. Make sure it gets down in both of them. Make sure all the drawers are closed. Make sure that this is not sticking up above the top of the back of the cabinet. Take the housing that you've reamed out, put it back on, put the 2 machine screws back in, and put the nuts back on underneath. And then tighten them up. There you have it. Now when the lid's closed, it's not going to push this down, and your drawers are going to open and close just fine. And if you do want to lock the cabinet, this becomes your key. So now what you do is you just slide that over that. Now when you close it, the drawers are going to lock. If for some reason it binds up a little bit too much, you may have to trim the brass tubing off a little bit more. The nice thing about this is when you get it done on both sides, the top drawers lock independently. So if you put just one of these keys in, it will still lock the 2 bottom drawers and the top drawer on the side that you put the key in. But the other top drawer you can open and close, or if you want to lock everything, you can put the key in both sides. So now just to top things off, add a little bit more to this, as you can get these little cable, I don't know what you call it, cable ties, not necessarily ties, but they're just kind of like a little router. And we're going to fasten that onto the side of that right there. And that's going to give you a little place to hold your key so it doesn't get lost. There.